Thank you and a very good morning. And first, Professor Pillai, thank you very much. As an educationist of more than 50 years, he has seen the evolution of diversity in the educational institutions and India. So it was really good to have him start this conference. Soundarya Rajesh and I go back almost a decade. I have been privy to the monumental pioneering work that she and our organization, Avatar, has been doing in the area of diversity. And as a head of BSF, I had the opportunity to be associated with this organization and learn a lot, and that helped us move a little bit forward in terms of diversity at our organization. So this is a favorite topic of mine. I have a lot of stories. I can stand here and talk for the next maybe 30 minutes. She knows about it. But I won't take that much time. But I do have to talk about a couple of very, very important points. And let me start with equity. I think there was very recently a report that was alarming and also told us Indians a little bit about equity or lack thereof in this country. Any of the students remember what I'm referring to? In the World Economic Forum in Davos, Oxfam released a report on inequity in India. All of you should read it, because it said that 40% of India's wealth is owned by 1% of the individuals or Indians. Okay? 70% of the wealth that has been created in the last 10 years was distributed only with 10%. And the bottom 30%, the increase in their wealth was only about 3%. Is such an inequity good for a country? It's not, because we are standing on the verge of revolution and social unrest if such inequities continue. Okay? So Oxfam basically has told the Indian government and Nirmala Sitharaman, please introduce wealth tax, right? So that's the kind of regulatory pressures that will come if this kind of inequity continues. And particularly the students who are studying here are a very privileged lot, and you will belong to the top 1 or 2%. And why I say this is, there's nothing wrong with creating wealth, but please remember that the society will be better off if you also have the attitude to redistribute this wealth. And hence, for example, that's a legacy that our founder, K.J. Somaya, we won't be here if he had decided to keep all the wealth for his progenies and for his children and grandchildren, right? I mean, he had the vision to reinvest that into educational institutions like this, so some of us could continue the work here. So that's about inequity. So inequity is not very good. So very, very topical topic, I would say. And if there is a vision for equity, the vision is that if every one of us could go to the nearest school and not look for the most expensive father's school to send our children, I think we would have an equitable society. If every one of us could go to any part of India, pick up a glass of water and drink it and not be worried about diarrhea and jaundice and typhoid, we would have an equitable society. Okay? So that's about equity, and I want to now move on to diversity. And again, I want to pick up a recent event. How many of you are marathon runners? Anyone here? What happened in Mumbai? Did you run a marathon last week? Yeah, so we had Tata Mumbai Marathon. One of the longest running marathons in the world is the Boston Marathon. That's been running for about 100 years. How many of you knew that it was only in 1976 that women were allowed to run in Boston Marathon? Yeah. In 1967, there was a woman called Catherine Schweitzer who wanted to run the marathon, but she had to dress up as a man to run in the marathon, and halfway along the way, the authorities tried to stop her. And she, being a runner, she outran the authorities and actually finished the marathon. Okay? So this is a real story, right? So just imagine, that's where we come from. So we have made a lot of progress, but still there is tremendous more progress that needs to be achieved on the whole area of diversity, particularly in a country like India, gender diversity to me has always been extremely, important, while other diversities are equally important. I think even in gender diversity, there is a long way to go. So I'm going to talk about just two more small stories, one of which is going back to 1982 when I went to study in Australia, you might remember this story. I mentioned this in one of your forums. I was boarding in a house of a lady by name Prue Lamotte, who at the age of 55 was studying BSc in BA Sociology. She was taking on boarders, and she interviewed, and she said, okay, you can come, we'll give you a room, but there are some rules in this house, and some were about keeping the kitchen clean, etc. But then she said one rule which really threw me off. She said there is, in this house, the word mankind cannot be used. And I was like stunned, and I said, why? No, I am a very strong feminist, and I don't like words like mankind. I said, look, just the use of the word mankind doesn't mean anything. So she said, young man, you are a naive young fellow. Language has a huge implication on how you think and how your emotions work. And today I learned that in the Scandinavian countries, there is actually a gender-neutral language that is being developed. And many of my colleagues here know, I abhor terms like sir, because I believe that is that's a word that makes you feel subservient. That's a word in an institution would curb innovation and creativity. Because especially in academic institutions, words like sir, any subservient words should not be used. Because, and I think this is a great topic for research, and I think we all should think about whether there is an opportunity to research, and the young amongst you really should reflect on this. So my last story is during my time as the head of BSF, which is a big multinational chemical corporation. Every organization has stereotypes, right? Yes, we want to increase gender diversity. Let's hire more women in HR. Maybe finance also would work. Let's get a few CFA women, will increase the diversity. Manufacturing, no way. But when I was there, I had the pleasure of having one of my team members, Ashima Sushil Chandra, who studied in Surathkal, chemical engineering, and really wanted to be in the manufacturing. Unlike many women and men who study chemical engineering and want to get into banks, she actually wanted to be in the chemical world and more importantly, run the plant, be actually in manufacturing. So I had an opportunity. I was looking for a head of a plant in Thane, which is a 50-year-old plant, which has got two very militant unions and whose EHS or safety track record was not very good over the last 50 years. But I took the bold decision of putting Ashima Sushil Chandra as head of that manufacturing plant. She ran it for the next 5 years, and in that 5 years, it became one of the best in EHS. It had the highest productivity in the history because she was a strong lady who donned the uniform of the factory workers, worked with the labor unions, and really transformed that. So all these mental stereotypes of where women can work no longer are true. So with that, I really wish a great conference, and I'm looking forward to some very good recommendations about how our curriculum can improve on these topics, and how we can also think of some very important research topics and policies that we can make, with which we can use and approach governments and other policymakers for a better balanced world. Thank you very much.